execution is everything because that's what people have to live with, is your execution, not with your ideas.
Welcome to the Moodboard. My name is Aaron.
And this is Caesar.
And we're two creatives coming together each week to share meaningful conversations and insights to help you unlock your creative potential. Let me recap what we talked about last week. We went over some of the strategies and experiences that we've had towards pursuing that dream job. What are some things that can be done in the meantime as you're working towards your dream job? And in this episode, we just wanted to continue on that topic, as well as maybe share some of the experiences that we've had from the last week and see where it goes. What do you think, Caesar?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to share about was this experience that I had last week. This is going to highlight the importance of checking your LinkedIn and making sure that you know what's going on. The head of product design at Duolingo was giving a lecture at the Parsons school, and they posted on LinkedIn that they'd be there. And so I signed up and I had a chance to go and listen to, his name is Mig Reyes. He talked about his career so far, but what I really enjoyed from the presentation is that it didn't feel like, here's my work so far. It was told in the format of a story, and the work was sort of woven into that story. And it got me thinking about presentations and the art of presenting work. And it definitely took a lot away from it. One of the main topics, or one of the things that came up, was don't be so precious with things and just break things, and don't confine yourself to the job title that you have. Explore different things. So I thought we could talk about some of those topics.
Yeah, no, that's very important because sometimes you're not, let's say, in the position that you want to be, like you're not in ideal scenario, or you are trying to make ends meet. Anyway, you get the idea. You're not in a desired position or place in your career. However, I think it's important to find ways to get the most out of those situations. And when I say that, I mean find passion in the situations where you feel a little bit stuck. Because last week we talked about you removing yourself and going to another place where you think things are better. But what if you don't have that choice? What if you like, hey, maybe for a season in my career, a season in my life, I have to be here and I have to find a passion, or I have to find something, like change your attitude towards what you're doing. And sometimes that's what it takes to, let's say, quote unquote, find your dream job. Because what if you have it, but you just haven't realized it yet, because in your mind you're thinking, well, if I do X with this other company, oh, it's gonna be better. And there's been cases where like people reach, or like people get to work with the companies they were dreaming to work with, and it's not what they expected.
Yeah, and it's always that saying of like the grass is greener on the other side. How what you're saying, what I'm understanding is make the most of what you are in, like the situation that you're in, make the most of it.
Yes.
Wherever you are, to sort of like work your way towards the next thing.
I agree. And it's important, to be open to both. Like there is a moment and time for both situations. There's a
Yeah.
moment in time for when, like, okay, you have to stick it out and stay there for a little bit. There's also a moment when, okay, I have to start working on my plan to get out of here. So that's another one. But wherever you are, I think it's important to like have a positive attitude, and it's important for you to stay open, you know, stay
Hmm.
open and stick around long enough, because sometimes, if you wait just a little bit more or something, you could meet a person that could be, a key connection later in your career, or a new
Yeah.
project might come in. You never know. Um, so I think it's important to be mindful of both situations and knowing when to, knowing when to leave, knowing when to stay.
Yeah. I also think that it's important to, if you can, to actually try to put your work out there, your experiments. If, like, for example, if I was like in a position right now that I wasn't very happy with, or I was thinking about the next thing, etc., I would still try to put work, even if it's just fun experiments, on the internet, because you make yourself luckier the more people know about the work that you do, whether it's just fun work or
Mhm.
client work, if you can share it, etc., whatever it is that you've been able to make, um, putting it out into the world, posting it, lets people learn about you, makes you easy to find, and it just broadens your opportunities. And I think this is one of the takeaways that I took from this lecture that I just mentioned, and it it's that there are ways that you can show your point of view and what you care about, your attention to craft, your attention to detail, etc., whatever it is, by just putting stuff out there. And like, the crazier the better, right? I feel like
Yeah.
when we come out of school, it's always so tempting, and even within school, to be meticulous and a perfectionist about how to present your work. You don't want to seem lazy or like, I don't know, like
You don't want to
messy,
look bad. Yeah, you don't
disorganized.
want to look bad.
Yeah. But like, that's the sketches, the messy prototypes. I always find those a lot more
Yeah.
fascinating.
I have an interesting story
Yeah.
about a professor. I don't know if you had a class with Jose Gamboa
I
during.
had a workshop with him. That's where I think we first,
That's where we first met, probably.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Very cool guy.
yeah. So he taught us ideas of visualization, um, at the Savannah College of Art and Design in the Industrial Design program back in 2009, 2010.
Hmm. Sounds right.
Um, so I took
Can I give
his.
a little? Oh, are
Yes,
you going to talk about what you do in that class?
yes.
Okay, cool, cool. All right.
Yeah, so idea visualization is a class in the Industrial Design program at SCAD where they teach you how to visually communicate ideas.
Yeah, that's such a great
Of,
class.
of course, that entails sketching, perspectives. You learn um, methods
Like,
and tools.
how to
Yeah,
stretch your, yeah, for sure.
yeah, to help you get points across, get ideas across, visualize how things are coming together when you still don't have, let's say, like sometimes you cannot wait for a 3D model that is going to take weeks. Maybe you just go ahead and sketch it, and it's enough information to communicate to either the 3D modeling guy or to pitch the idea. It's enough information that helps you sell your ideas. But anyways, so that's what the class is about. Just sketching, communicating ideas visually, and then part of that is also rendering. So some of the projects, they start like very broad, where you have an example. Let's sketch stapler machines. So you start very broad with many ideas, and as you narrow it down, the quality of the rendering increases. So
100%.
So now you're not spending 8 hours in 100 ideas. Now you're spending 8 hours in one idea. And so that's pretty much what the projects are, and that's the dynamic of the class. But anyways, so the point of my story is this professor that taught us this class, he told us a story about what you pointed out, the importance of sketching, showing process, showing how you think. So my professor, he used to always sketch. We were encouraged to carry sketchbook, sketch everywhere you are, anywhere you are. They were trying to nurture those habits, good habits, so that we could, become really great professional. But so anyways, he carried this sketchbook and he was always sketching. He was always, very visual, and we could tell because that's what he translated us in his class. He translated all those good principles to us, which was amazing. But part of the class was also having a sketchbook that he would review, and he would see how much you practice, or like, what are you trying? Are you trying anything new? Type of thing.
Cool.
So like, so with that sketchbook, the idea behind it was that sometimes you might not get hired for the projects that you show for what you do, but you might get hired for how you do things. And that is the point of the sketchbook. So he was working late one Sunday evening, I believe, or like an evening. He was working late. And during this time, Horacio Pagani came to the school, I think to do a lecture or something. I forgot what he was in the school for. And Horacio Pagani is the owner of the the Italian supercar company that makes these like $5 million cars. Anyways, he couldn't sleep, so he went to the industrial design building, and my professor happened to be there. And he asked him if he could see his, he ran into him, and I'm sure they talk about like, oh, what are you working on? Show me. And then, oh, I'm sure Horacio say, can I see your sketchbook? And all it took for my professor to land an internship at Pagani was that he showed Horacio his sketchbook.
Wow.
And
it's the power.
Yeah.
Visualization.
And that's why from that moment on, I don't know if they communicated this in portfolio class, but which was a separate class at SCAD for the industrial design program, where you just work on your portfolio. But we were encouraged to also show the option of showing your sketchbook.
Yeah.
So showing, as
this
you said,
is good.
Yeah, showing process, showing the sketches.
And that's like at an individual level. And what the internet gives us is the ability to like email blast the entire world and get on top of these things called algorithms that if, things perform, they reach even a greater audience.
Right.
I think another thing too that will help our audience who wants to share things is offering a point of view with
Mm-hmm.
their posts, or being very easy to box in at the beginning when
Mm-hmm.
you're building that audience and getting that initial
Mm-hmm.
traction. Um, I think we know a lot of people who have gotten, a lot of clients and a lot of sponsorships and collaborations because they're sharing their sketches online, and that's one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, you are already making sketches, so like, why not share some of them?
Yeah.
Um, if you're able to, um, I think this is such a great story because it highlights the importance of one, keeping a record of your ideas. It's like, I think you also talked about this, Caesar, a while back in an episode where you're like, bring in the ideas into this bank,
Mm-hmm.
which is your sketchbook, and make deposits as much as you can. Um, because you will have a place, a well to go back to and work off of. Um, the more time passes, the more I think the modern designer has to take advantage of the internet and social networking,
Mm-hmm.
um, not only as a way to build an audience, but really just to keep a record of growth and evolution publicly, and also find new connections, because like the people that you meet at university or at a job, you're all meeting there because of uh, you were at that same place at the same time, etc. And so you become, you make connections that way. But I think what's so cool about the internet is that if I'm interested in X thing and I'm
Mm-hmm.
putting up sketches about that, other people who are also interested in that or curious about it, I'll be able to make connections with them just purely on mutual interest. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. And I love that. I don't know, it's hard to see the value. Well, it's hard to see the value of being in college when you're in college. Um, I think it
I
needs
can
to.
definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to like finish school before like go go through it, go through thick and thin for 10 years, and then you
Yeah.
see like, oh, how good of a time I had at in school, or
Hmm.
like connections that like, oh, I wonder what so and so is doing. Let me find out. Let's reconnect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there is a lot of value, as you said, in the connections that you make in school. And, they don't have to be from specifically from your department, but maybe it's someone else that was in another, in another major doing something else. Um, that
Yeah.
could be
I
was.
almost wish,
Mhm.
I was just going to say, I almost wish that I would have made even more connections outside of,
Industrial
my
design.
major,
Yeah.
industrial design. I had I had, you know, people that I knew from film and, et cetera. But I think it's really important, like you said, to take advantage of the time that you have
Yeah.
if you're at university. And even if you're not, right? Like, there were people who would come to school to hang out and just chat, right? Uh, do you remember?
They were
Did you have
cheating. They
any?
were. Um, I
Did
want to
you know
say
any people who
yes.
were just like hovering?
Yeah, I want to say yes, Because it's like you would ask them, "Oh, what are you doing?" Or like, "Oh, I
They're
don't know,
like, I'm
like
just curious, just hanging
I'm
out.
just yeah, just here." But that's that's not a bad idea
It's not.
because
It's not.
you're still getting well, if let's say I was in that position where like I want to be around those people,
Hmm.
and if well, now knowing what I know, I don't think I would need to, like, let's say, have a major in fashion design to make clothes. I would just
Hmm.
work with an apparel designer student to make the clothes that I want to make.
I like you
And
could assist.
right. And it proves the point of the Grow Think Rich book, where this section where they talk about Henry Ford that didn't go to school, and they were trying to make a point of like, oh well, you didn't go to school, therefore you are ignorant, or you lack education, or I
Yeah.
don't know, vision,
Yeah.
perspective, whatever. But then he said like, why do I need to know what you're asking me if I know the person that has the answer to the question?
Wow. That's good.
So yeah, he says like, I have people at my disposal to find out what I need to find out. So I don't need
Yeah.
school because I know who knows what I need to know.
Yeah. That dude, that goes hard. Uh I have a story. Well, not really a story, but I know of a guy who is from my hometown, and this gentleman, I he he's still like, how would I say? When I first met his family and him, and they
Mhm.
were not, they were simple working class people. This guy had no education. He immigrated to the United States, and he built a multi-million dollar business by basically noticing that there was a boom in the industry for in the market for cargo trailers and things that you attach. And so he was working at one of these factories, and he was just seeing how many they were producing.
Mm.
And he quickly figured out how to manufacture these, and he teamed up with someone else, and they have been in this industry, I don't know, I think for more than a decade now. But it always, I love to hear these kinds of stories where people show this initiative and show that you don't really need to have the traditional trajectory to become
Yeah,
successful. And
totally.
it all really comes down to just that, like, having it in you to notice and act. And this guy's like, I think what he did was like he was working and saving his money and just saving. And I mean, now he has a jet. So it worked out for him. It's crazy.
I think so too. That kind of approach is what intrigues me to say, let's say like, oh, I wonder, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to getting a job at McDonald's or In and Out or Chick-fil-A, all these
Uh
companies
huh.
that are successful and efficient. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued. I'm intrigued to know what's going on inside. So like, I would
Yeah.
wanna like work, I don't know, as a cashier or as someone working the fries, and then paying attention to like all these, you know, uh,
How the systems work.
yeah, how the system works, because I'm very
Dude,
intrigued to know.
that you touch on something that I recently learned about. There's a book called The E-Myth, and if you're in business, I highly recommend you read this book. It was a very important book for me last year. And I'll just give you a quick rundown. It doesn't tell you how to build a business. It tells you what not to do. It tells you the inconvenient truths.
Oh,
And for me, it shook me, right? It really it's a wake up call. And one of the things that I learned from it was how franchise like McDonald's and all these different restaurants, you name it, how they're able to be successful. Because what happens is you basically make a business that's so successful and runs so effectively that you can sell that business to other people, and you're basically buying a money making machine, right? And those franchises
oh,
have to be designed so well that they have to be sustainable in any place with whoever, like minimum talent, basically. You just need people who can follow orders and show up, and you can print money, basically.
yeah.
Because you have your supply chain uh, figured out, you have your operations figured out. All these things are figured out. All you have to do is pay for this franchise, and and wait.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it, because it makes you think about, like, okay, if this company was to run on autopilot, what would that look like?
Yeah. The more I think, the more I dive into this whole business thing, um, and I still feel very much a novice. Of course, I'm learning every day, but the more I look into it, the more I see a different kind of design. It's designing in an environment where the variables are continuously changing, but the specificity that we have in design when we make technical drawings for a product, or we are figuring out costs, or all these different things that we're
Hmm.
very specific about, it's the same thing in business, right? Like you have to have policies written out for different scenarios, and you have to have an understanding of the different systems that come into play when you're running your business. And I think it's just a fascinating subject. People who do it, who do business design and work in business, I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, totally. No, it's very, yeah, very very fascinating how to run a business that not only is efficient, but also there is room for you to, to do the job, which in our case
Yeah.
will be designing. And yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna focus on um during the next couple months. It's just like, okay, let me fine tune the machine, see where I
Yes.
can,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, all the areas, marketing, all the
Hmm.
contracts, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I just have to sit down and really like figure it out, flush it out, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm working on a collection of documents for myself that I want to share with you soon, so that you can take a look at it. But basically, what I'm doing with these documents is outlining. There are 4 different sections. It's like getting the work, doing the work and then what happens after the work. And it's based on that. It's based on a book called Success by Design.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to outline the policies
Mm-hmm.
and the tools that I use, and basically just writing out what clients can expect from me
Mm-hmm.
and what I expect from clients. And really, again, just outlining the details and not leaving anything
Out. Yeah.
vague or yeah, exactly. Or not specified, because what I find quite difficult is really just like organizing so many different moving parts. And in order to do that, I find visuals really helpful. And I think it's really important to do this sort of, I don't want to call it boring work. It's more like it's a little tedious. It's not as fun, let's say, as 3D modeling or sketching or doing something of that nature. But it's so important because, as we were talking earlier, I think also in a different episode,
Mm-hmm.
if you're running a business, it very likely that you're going to come across situations where, one, you get a client who maybe doesn't want to pay or is not paying on time, or um, they said that they wanted one thing and the scope just keeps on growing, etc. And so it's important to know what to do when that happens and how to protect yourself,
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah. Well, that's what
not
the
fun.
yeah, the video that we share, the presentation that we share, I think a few episodes back, the
Yeah, yeah. The Mike
if you
Montero
pay
one.
yeah, if you pay me, uh, well, he addresses all the situations in the presentation where, like, if the scope of work changes during the project, that means that project ends, and then you have to create a new scope of work. Like, pretty much, like, you have to stop.
Yeah,
It's a new project, and it is a new project, and you don't wanna do more work under a scope of work that doesn't reflect, you know, what you're
yeah,
delivering, your compensation, your time commitment.
dude,
Um,
totally.
so
You,
you know,
you know, I I I'm subscribed to LinkedIn Premium,
hmm
um, and I'm constantly asking myself why, because it's not, I don't find it to be where I think it could be. And one of the things that I wish came with that LinkedIn Premium bundle of features is the ability to see potential clients, their Yelp reviews. Like, how do other designers,
oh,
how have other designers or other people who they've worked with, how have they
the
been rated?
experiences. Yeah.
Yes, like what has, like almost like a glass door, but for uh but for people who are, hiring on an individual level, or just companies in general, um so that the LinkedIn Premium bundle or membership could benefit freelancers who are gauging, should I work with this person? Um, when their ratings are it's almost like Uber, right? Like Uber or Lyft, and the way they've used.
They'll rate the driver, they rate you. Everything
Yeah,
has a rating.
exactly. And I think I mean, you could, in this context, I don't think it's as scary as maybe the Black Mirror episodes where people are getting rated for whatever reason. But I do think there is an opportunity there for LinkedIn Premium. I've been thinking of mocking it up and just posting it because they're looking for a senior product designer, and I'm just like, this is what the
Oh,
senior product designer should work on.
not only that, you could become, even higher than that. Like you could become a contractor that, hey, we just want to have you on retainer for ideas like this. Like
Yeah,
let's mock up these crazy ideas. They can
yeah,
put you on a retainer, and you could
that's
do
a
really well and have a really good time balance,
yeah,
work life
yeah,
balance. So
yeah. Might
yeah,
have to do that. I might have to do that.
I think
Um,
that happened. That's Oh, sorry, I was just gonna
no, go ahead.
include include a really quick story going back to SCAD.
Hmm.
And there was this kid that was really good. I think he was a motion media designer, something with computers or animation. I don't know, one of those major.
Uh huh.
But he was good with computers, and I'm sure like coding or something he was good at. But anyways, bottom line is that there there was there a glitch on the Google website, or there was something that happened with Google, and he was able to either figure it out what happened or fix it. She shared it with someone at Google, and it was they like they like it, or they found it like helpful, so they hired the guy.
Oh, that's sick. So he basically just created a project for Google, and it was good enough to get him hired.
Yeah. Well, and to figure out what was going on with the glitch or whatever the error that was happening on on
Got
on the
got it.
Google side. I
That's
don't know if it
really
was
interesting.
I don't know if it was something obvious that only he saw, or it was something obvious that everyone was running into, but I don't know. He saw something, he did something about it, and now
That's powerful.
she ended up with the job.
I recently saw this a person who found the vulnerability in the software in the browser Arc in the Arc browser, and I saw that the CEO replied to them that they have a job whenever they want it at this place,
Oh wow.
just from finding this vulnerability, which to me, I think is a great reminder that putting your work out there and just being really like dedicated to what you do, putting it out there, it just opens up doors, so many doors for you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Um, I keep thinking about how when you least need it, things show up, right? When you least like have, uh, I guess when you're operating out of just like pure abundance and pure like, I'm gonna mock up all these ideas that I have and put them out there into the world, and then you just get really lucky from that.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Tonight I'm going to a event, and we're gonna I'm gonna see a few people from around New York City present their work. So there's gonna be people from uh, Flower Computer, uh, I think Arena, and a few other well-known companies that I'm excited to see what people are working on. And I always find that nothing beats being in person at these events.
Yeah.
Like getting to talk to people and also exchanging ideas is always, I feel like the pandemic and like remote work has made it so common to just do video calls that whenever I go in person, I'm just reminded of how great it is to just be in person.
Yeah. And I love when you connect with people like over everything, like over anything but work. Oh, like I don't know, I don't know, you're drinking a Coke. Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love Coke.
yeah.
Oh my god, like it tastes so good. Have you tried this flavor? Oh yes, I have. Like, oh my god, no
Totally.
way. Come to my place. I'll show you the other flavors, and like that's how shit like starts.
You know how
Um,
people most of the time they are always like, "What do you do? Like, where do you live? Or like, what brought you here?" They always ask that at these events, like, "What brought you here?" And I'm always like, curiosity. Uh, w- that's that's what brought me here. No, but
yeah,
I was thinking, what if instead of asking people, "What do you do?" instead you ask them, "What is your quirk? What is your what makes you weird?" You know?
yeah. Or like, what do you collect? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great one. If you collect, what do you collect?
I collect 90s Legos.
90s Legos?
Yeah,
That's
like
cool.
early 90s. Not too early.
That's cool.
Like 94, 95, 96,
So mid 90s, late
mid 90s.
90s.
Correct, mid
Yeah.
90s. Mid 90s. I'm a little bit flexible. Like if I see something really cool that is not necessarily from the mid 90s, I like, yes, I get it.
Mhm.
But if not,
Yeah,
uh, I try to stick within that range.
that's cool.
Um, yeah, I think it was a good year for Lego because they were expanding, growing a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
of course, before hitting the peak in early 2000s, that's when things started to level off. And then they had Bionicle, which this is something for the audience to to pay attention and to be mindful of these moments in the history of companies that they're like doing really well. And I think like 99% of companies, like they do well, but then they all hit a ceiling, or like they start leveling off.
Mm.
And those
Yeah.
are very defining moments because what you do at that moment either helps things keep going up or things start going down.
100%.
And so
And
what Lego did,
mhm.
they they reached the ceiling and they were like, okay,
Yeah.
we're I don't know, we run out of themes to make Legos, out of, and all of that. They were, I think they had a Star Wars sets. So they were like trying to like do the movie sets type of
Yeah.
thing. So like Harry Potter, um, but I don't think it was sticking to the wall. So they were like, okay, what do kids, what do most kids like? And they
Right.
were like, comics. So that they were like, okay, what if we do this set, Legos, with characters, and each character have its own story, but
Yeah.
we attach this to a comic. So they partnered with DC Comics to to also come up with the stories and elaborate on everything, in every character, whatever, to elaborate on this story for behind the Lego sets. Um, but it was very successful, and is what helped Lego keep growing. So attaching when you attach product to a good story, it's a key ingredient for success. And
One hundred percent.
out of that came out a movie, and I'm sure like a TV series and more stuff. But it was something that gave Lego like that story that they own. It gave Lego like the edge that they needed at that moment in time to, to do better.
That's really powerful. The story part as well. I recently saw or was reminded again of the quote by Steve Jobs that said that, where he says that the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. And it sounds like a really good quote, but when you really examine it, it's very true in the sense that the storyteller basically has the power to create a new world. And people are always craving something new, and
Hmm.
the ability to create a new story for a product has the potential of becoming really successful. Um, yeah, I mean, I think about Christopher Nolan and all of these great directors who are able to create worlds, and like Spike Jonze, right?
Hmm.
Who created Her. They're just, man, that storytelling
And
it's a
that's
powerful
yeah,
craft.
yeah. No, I'm making movies as well. I've uh, making movie. I think it's one of the ultimate uh, like one of the ultimate mediums for like human expression, because there is so much that goes
100%.
into making
Yes,
movies. It's like
100%.
art in motion. Every scene, every shot. You could like screenshot it, and that could be
Yeah,
that could be a piece of art.
yeah, totally. It's like the combination of music, photography, scripts,
Yeah,
storytelling, words, acting, set
wardrobe.
design,
Yeah, wardrobe.
exact
Yeah.
costume. So much that goes into it. I recently saw The Substance, and I won't give away too many details here because I highly recommend it to people who are open-minded, because there's a lot of body gore. It's kind of like a horror film, if you will, but the design is so good. The design
I
is
have
so good.
I have to see
I
it.
I got I felt the whole spectrum of emotions watching that film. Um,
Wow.
and I think it touches on something that you and I have talked about in the past, where when we've discussed how marketing can, again, the story, right? It can change
Hmm.
the perception of how someone receives a product, or
Right.
even desires the product. It's like the storytelling behind the product is going to make the difference in whether I see myself using it, or I go, that's not for me, right? If you created something where I'm, as a user consumer, am not
Hmm.
the center focus, or I don't
Right.
feel like that speaks to me, the story is bad. Did you know Steve Jobs spent 6 months or plus working on his presentation for the iPhone?
No way. Shit.
Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah. He would rehearse it. He would tell it to people. He would tell the presentation. And if you haven't seen that presentation, please go to YouTube. Like, stop this video right now and go watch it, because I think most people have seen it, but definitely go see that.
Where did you see that? Or like, where did
Yeah,
you find
so
that out?
yeah, I read the book by Tony Fadell. The book is called Build, and in this book, Tony Fadell, who used to work with Steve Jobs, he actually worked on the iPod, among other things. He's sort of known as the father of the iPod, but he tells the story of Steve working on his presentation and the story that he was going to tell as he introduced the iPhone. He mentioned that he worked on it for about 6 months, and he would just go around telling people the story. And if he gauged that people had questions, or they were like, what do you mean by that? Or things like that, he would just readjust the story and fine tune it. And that made me just go like, wow, if that's why that presentation feels so natural, because by month 6, imagine you have that committed to memory. It just flows.
It's part of you. Like, yeah.
I mean, it's the most
Wow.
important product release since the light bulb, maybe. I don't know. I just coming up with things, but
Hey,
that
what about
getting that presentation's right.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, I can imagine you have to like that presentation is crucial and you cannot just take it lightly. You
Totally.
have to you have to rehearse. You have to like uh, not not stumble, or you just have to flow naturally like it's in you.
It doesn't feel rehearsed too. I think that's the hardest part, at least for me, when I'm preparing for a presentation. How do you sound natural? How do you sound like you're telling a story, not presenting? And that's why I love studying these guys or these people
Right.
who
Public
present.
speaking. Yeah,
Public
public speaking.
speaking is such a craft. Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, just another note on that topic really quickly. Just personal experience. You can have really great work, but if you don't know how to, or if you haven't quite worked out how to present that work,
Mm,
um,
it
it doesn't
hinders.
matter.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
hinders.
doesn't matter. I recently just have been thinking about experiences that I've had presenting work, and I have just quick stories here where I'm presenting a portfolio, and I'm presenting it in this instance in such a way that I'm sort of building towards the final result. And that is the recipe to lose your audience, because they don't know what you're talking about. And I have another scenario where I start with the work, with the prototype, and then I show the process. And and the thing to note here is, if the story is sort of like the vessel or the pedestal or the presentation of the thing that you're wanting to communicate, which is your expertise and your thinking. And if you don't spend enough time thinking through it and arranging it in a way that's going to captivate your audience, dude, it's like
Mhm.
such a waste of time and
Yeah,
effort, because what's the point of presenting if you already lost your audience?
right. And that was a point that was constantly um, brought up during the class, the ideas of visualization class, the sketching class, some students will have good ideas not presented in the best, in the best form, or the perspective was off, or the the choice of markers wasn't the best, and a lot of visual things, technical things that didn't do justice to the idea. And on the other hand, you will have other students with, you know, okay ideas, or not the best ideas, but they will have the best sketch, or they would do a sexy angle, something really uh, captivating.
Yeah.
And so the professor will point out, like, look, you have here, an idea that, if you think about it, is not, feasible, manufacturable, whatever, but it's a cool shape, and like people are drawn to that. And
Yeah.
you could have a good idea, but like, if you're just presenting like a, something that doesn't look right, or not presented in the best way possible, uh, like in your mind you think is a bad idea. um
Yeah.
so
And it's a
yeah
shame, really.
so the point is, like, find the right balance between the both of them. And I mean, of course, image is everything, execution is everything, because that's what people have to live with, is your execution, not with your ideas.
Yeah, that's a bar. Yeah.
No, this was really good.
Yeah, I think so too. I want us to dive in a little deeper in a future episode on just the different elements that go into good presentation design,
Hmm.
and the interplay of visual design and public speaking and communication. I think
Right.
that intersection is something we could touch a little
Elaborate.
bit more on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so important. I mean, it's like what you said is so true. You could have a really great idea, and it's so distracting to see it not presented in a great way. And you can also have a bad idea that is, or not such a great idea, that's presented in such a lovely way that you're sort of captivated by it. And um, it's important to know what's at play there.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
So this was another episode of the Moodboard podcast. My name is Aaron,
And this is Caesar.
and we come together every week to have meaningful conversations and share insights with you to help you unlock your creative potential. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye-bye.